June 22nd, 2024. Summer solstice. If it's 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, it's time for This Week in Waukesha. I'm your host, Don Brown. I am joined by the mighty Max Martinson on the board, and we are coming to you live and local from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown here in the WAUK studios in downtown Waukesha, right around the corner from Theodore Yalman's Park, where we are proud to honor our suffragette heritage here in the Shaw. We've got a full plate for you today. I've got my first two guests already in studio. Here in the hot seat, my first guest is Ben Steinhoff, who is a candidate, Democratic candidate for the 5th Congressional District, currently held by Scott Fitzgerald. Ben, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Glad that you're here. And Ben is also joined by his wife, Vicky, who's here in a supporting role. And but wanted to kind of give you the agenda for today's show. Of course, Ben is my first guest, but then we have some Waukesha news, including a new restaurant, a new fire chief. We've got my second guest, who is Patrick O'Donnell, retired Milwaukee police officer who started a second career in writing. He's got some books published, and he has his own podcast series called Cops and Writers, and we'll be talking about that genre. And while Pat's on too, we're going to talk about a landmark conviction or sentencing announced yesterday involving a sexual assault on a local store owner. Very big news, and it would be great to get Patrick's perspectives on that as a longtime member of the police force. And then my third guest is first time here on This Week in Waukesha, a former colleague on the city council who is the 4th District Alderman and chair of the Finance Committee, among other committee assignments. And that is Smokin' Joe Pieper is my guest here in the second hour. So we're looking forward to seeing Joe. So lots to talk about. We're also in the second hour, we'll be getting a couple calls in from giving us a report from the farmers market. Now that the rain has stopped, it looked rather torrential a few moments as Max was driving in, actually. Things seem to be settling down, and it should be a good day for some shopping, and especially since the rain scares other shoppers away, the real ambitious ones will have a better pick of the litter. But Chris Morrow from WAUK will be calling in at the beginning of the second hour and then halfway through. So we'll give you some updates on what's trending over there. Let's talk about, while Joe's on, we're going to talk about some items going on in City Council, some recent provisions that were passed affecting us all. But on a more national level is Ben Steinhoff, who is a paramedic, and you work at Children's Wisconsin?
Correct.
And happily married, his wife Vicky here.
Recently married.
Oh, congratulations.
March 15th.
March 15th. Excellent. And thank you for the friend request on Facebook. I accepted proudly. So, and which is important because Ben has admitted he doesn't like social media. And many people don't. But I guess first question is, why do you want to be the 5th District U.S. Congressman?
Well, what I usually tell most people is I didn't really want to run into this role, but looking around the political makeup that we had, not only in this district, but around the country, I realized that somebody needed to step in and do something, and we needed somebody who was more down to earth, a little more grounded than the current politicians that we have. It's called the People's House, and we haven't really had too many people in there recently. It's just been a lot of people that are going in there for self-service and, to kind of grow their own wealth, really. I mean, we could really talk all day long about, stock trading and whatnot that's going on in Congress right now. I currently don't own any stocks, so I can promise you that once I do get in, I wouldn't be trading my own stocks and, looking at that. I'd actually be here to serve the constituents of the 5th Congressional District.
Excellent. Now, do you live in Waukesha or just in Waukesha County?
Waukesha County. We're in Pewaukee, so just north of here.
I see. Pewaukee down. Yeah, and so had you been involved in politics previously in any capacity?
No, not particularly. I'd been focused on my career in medicine and hopefully trying to advance in that. But what really got me involved in politics was back in 2020. I was a paramedic working at the city of Monona for the Monona Fire and EMS, and as most people know, we had a little bug going around in 2020 called COVID, and the national government decided that they wanted to help out local EMS, fire, police stations, and stuff like that with a whole bunch of money that they'd set aside for us to help buy PPE, drugs, airway supplies, different things like that. And our wonderful state legislature decided that they didn't want to give that money to EMS, police, and fire. And so that's kind of when I first started poking my head into politics. My brother was very involved in politics down in Georgia. He was working for the Bernie Sanders campaign, so he kind of, was pushing me more and more to get into politics. And the more and more we got through 2020, I was really reading more and more, getting more involved, and I would come home and I would, kind of just like unload everything on Vicky and just be like, "Did you hear this? Did you read about this?" And after about a year and a half of that, she gracefully listened to me one day. And then finally said, "You know what, Ben? I love you to death, but you either have to do something or just shut up about this stuff." And so, what was it, about like 2 months later? I came home and I was like, "Hey, so I think I'm going to run for Congress." And I thought that she would, kind of look at me and just be like, "What are you thinking?" But she was like, "Okay, what do we need to do?" And we started moving forward from there. And now we are the Democratic nominee for the Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. Still feels weird coming out of my mouth.
Because you don't have you no longer have an opponent for the Democratic primary, correct?
Correct. We are fully endorsed by the 5th CD right now as the Democratic nominee, and we're moving forward and hopefully getting all the support that we can so we can get Scott Fitzgerald out of office.
But you still have to go through the motions like you're running in a primary, right? That first vote, is that in August?
Yep, August 13th. And so the way we're actually going to be running the campaign, because I don't know if most of the listeners know about this, but we do have 2 constitutional amendments that are on the ballot this year for the August 13th primary.
Okay.
And I'm advising people to vote no on both of those because as it goes back to that 2020, one of the constitutional amendments that they have on there is that the governor would no longer be able to dole out emergency funds or anything like that.
Yeah.
It would all have to go through our state legislature. They only worked about 100 days this year, so we would have to be planning all of our natural disasters around when legislature's in session, which is pretty difficult.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to be, going out. We still want people to go out and support our campaign because the more people go out and vote, kind of shows a vote of confidence.
You want to have a strong turnout for the primary. Sure, absolutely.
That, and we hopefully want to defeat both of these constitutional amendments.
Okay. Max, how are we doing on time, friend? Okay, 5 minutes. Terrific. So, hey, I want to interject something, and this is a special thanks to Luke Mathers, our executive producer for Civic Media, who sent me this press release yesterday, and it involves the Waukesha Public Library. On July 19th, there will be a free stage dramatic reading of It Can't Happen Here Again. And it'll take place at 4 p.m. that day. And as a background, on July 14th, 2024, at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, former President Donald Trump will accept his party's 3rd consecutive nomination for their candidate for president. And Waukesha County, of course, is critical to how this historic election will play out. In response to the RNC convention on the 18th and 19th, the national group Writers for Democratic Action and its Wisconsin chapter of Wisconsin Writers for Democratic Action will launch over 40 stage dramatic readings of this play. Again, it's called It Can't Happen Here Again. It's an adaptation of the play by the Nobel laureate Sinclair Lewis. From most of you might remember his book, Main Street. Lewis's groundbreaking 1936 play about fascism coming to America has eerie parallels to the threats to democracy we face today. In 1936, at the time of the rising authoritarianism, American isolation, and right-wing media ascendancy, It Can't Happen Here was performed in over 20 locations across the U.S. prior to that presidential election. FDR won re-election in a landslide. The one-act adaptation by Shorewood native Wes Savick, formerly of Theater X, Milwaukee, features noted regional playwrights and actors John Kishline and Deborah Clifton. Their son Sam Kishline, also an actor, and actor Tom Briggs, all are Waukesha residents. They'll be joined by Delafield author and Wisconsin State Chair for Writers for Democratic Action, Jackie Leiden. There'll be question and answers following. So, and just really quick is what inspired Lewis to write this play was his wife, journalist Dorothy Thompson, interviewed Adolf Hitler. And she said, when liberty is taken away by force, it can be restored by force. Her character says in the play, but when it is taken away by default, it can never be restored. And so that's kind of your charge, is probably addressing some of the people that are kind of staying out of the fight, either because it's a bad taste in their mouth or because it's really never been their MO.
Mm-hmm. And, like I said earlier, was never really my MO, was never really my intention to get into politics. But, looking at the left and the right, I think that we've kind of been, pushed into our own little corners. And I don't think that really is reflective of the 5th District or the nation. And
Sure.
so I grew up in Wisconsin, lived here my whole life, and I know people in Wisconsin. I've been in the food service industry for a long time, been in EMS for a long time. I've never gotten to choose, which clients that I got. They always came to me, quite literally,
sure.
or called me and said, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
So, I know that there's a ton of good people around here. I know that even people on the right are kind of sick of what's going on. Convicted felon is going to be their nominee for president. I know that there's a lot of people that can't really believe that, myself included. So we just need somebody that has, like real world experience, that didn't grow up, with a silver spoon in their mouth or anything like that, and wants to go and make a difference for the people that actually live and work and, go to school here in this district. So I just really want to make Wisconsin and the 5th District a better place. And, as goes Wisconsin, goes the nation. So hopefully we can be a shining beacon on the hill for the rest of the nation.
Sure. And then we're going to continue this conversation with Ben Steinhoff, candidate for Congress. And one thing we're going to want to know is that with the new landmark fair maps that was passed by the Supreme Court, it is yet to affect the congressional maps. And so Ben will have the same challenge that his predecessors had, is running in a very red district, especially when you get out in the rural areas. So Ben's going to talk a little bit about his strategies for addressing that, and where he's even found some success, or at least maybe made some traction, if you will, plus other local news. And Daniel O'Donnell will be my guest in the next in the second half here. So much to look forward here on this rainy Saturday morning on This Week in Waukesha on WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM. And don't forget to download the Civic Media app so you can catch all of our great programming throughout the state. Don't just talk about it. Talk about it. Don't be shy. Don't be...
My heart is calling you.
Listening to This Week in Waukesha with Don Brown, and we are waiting for the sun to shine as we enjoy this lovely air from Waukesha's favorite son, Les Paul. And I'm joined by 5th District Congressional candidate Ben Steinhoff, who you like. I bet you like Les Paul. You like guitar. You like good music, right?
Mm-hmm, of course.
Sounds good. And you said you'll plan on being here on July 18th for that presentation, that adaptation of the Sinclair Lewis novel. It Can't Happen Here again. And I encourage everybody to check that out with an open mind. And because I think as someone, I am officially nonpartisan. I grew up in a Republican family, in a Republican community. And I'm also the grandson of Irish immigrants that were obviously very Democrat, very pro-union. So I was exposed to kind of both sides. I tell people jokingly that I'm biracial. And so because I think there were certainly good values, good ideas coming from all sides. And it's more important to be right than it is to move the nation forward, has really crippled us in recent years. And it's just really time to put an end to this. And so that's why I'm really encouraged. I'm enthusiastic to see young candidates for office. We had an 18-year-old that's running for state assembly for Scott Allen's seat that was in here. I don't know if that was last week or the week before when we had the youngster. Yep. But Ben, what haven't we talked about? What do you want people of Waukesha to know, their listeners here to know about your candidacy and why they should take a hard look at you and what you bring to the table?
Well, first thing is the website is wisconsinforben.com.
Nice.
I've been told repeatedly.
I was looking at it. I was like, "What's Wisconsin for Ben?" I was like, "What's going on?" And wisconsinforben.com. Yes,
FORben.com.
FORben.
You can find out, all of our policies on there. A little bit more about my background and everything on there. You can also donate. Unfortunately, that's part of politics, and that's what we have to do. It's my least favorite part. I get yelled at by my campaign manager about it all the time. But
Sure.
somebody who, like I said, didn't grow up very wealthy, and currently dealing with our current policies and everything. We just got a house in 2022. Got lucky with that, but
I was going to
throwing
say,
all our money there.
yeah,
So
the housing crisis.
yeah, it's tough to ask people for money when a lot of people don't have a ton of it. But
Yeah.
it's what drives the machine.
Where did you grow up again?
La Crosse. I grew up in La Crosse.
Okay.
Yep. Moved here when I turned 18. My brother was going to, moved to Madison in 2009, and my brother was going to school at UW. He was going for engineering, got his degree. Then that's when he moved down to Georgia. I was still in the Madison area, just got my paramedic degree, and that's when I met my lovely wife, Vicky. And she was finishing up her audiology degree. She got a job here in Waukesha, and I was like, I can be a paramedic anywhere. And so we moved here, got a job at Children's, and decided to run for Congress.
Sounds great. No, I love it. That's ambitious. And so, we're talking about what is your strategy for getting into the rural areas, the real red, or even Waukesha, which is a very much, you could say, is a red city. What is your strategy for kind of getting across to those people and getting them to take a harder look at your candidacy?
So just getting out there and getting seen. When we first moved into the district, we moved to Lake Mills because that was halfway between Madison and Waukesha.
Sure.
And beautiful place, love Lake Mills in Jefferson County. And, when we were there, we got to meet, a lot of different people and saw that it was, pretty heavy farming community and things like that. So just getting out and getting seen, having people see that, even though I am running on the Democratic ticket, we are still running for the rural voters because La Crosse is, a bigger city, but my dad lived just north of there in Holman, which was a huge farming community as well. So I've been around farming my whole life. My dad was the 10th of 10 children. They all grew up on a farm. Yeah. So he grew up on a farm. They still own that farm to this day out in Sparta.
Okay.
And so that's
love Sparta.
It's a beautiful place.
Nice.
It's the biking capital of the world.
Is that hometown of Zeke Slayton, astronaut? Did I get that right?
Yes,
Yep.
it is.
So, love it.
His
bicycle capital.
up there.
Yeah.
So just getting out, getting seen by the voters, just letting them know that helping farmers is a huge thing because farmers basically run Wisconsin. If we didn't have dairy farms here, we wouldn't have, as much of an economy, wouldn't have all the beautiful, delicious cheese that we have either.
There we go.
So just, showing that I am still hardworking. I am in this for the farmers and not just, like the corporate elite or anything like that. So just letting them know that we really are here for them. And I want my policies to help reflect that as well. So.
Okay. So in your website, you mentioned there's 4 key issues that you're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
If you could give us a summary of that: education, healthcare, cannabis legalization, and women's health.
Mm-hmm. I usually try to save the cannabis legalization for the end because, it does turn some people off, but it is 2024. It's legal, pretty much every other state essentially has legalized cannabis. But the main reason I usually leave it till the end is because you always have politicians talking, oh, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, I want to do this and that, and lower taxes. And everybody goes, well, how are you going to pay for that? Right. And I always love when people ask me that because I go, marijuana legalization. Right now, the state of Wisconsin is missing out on an estimated $485 million a year in tax revenue, and that's just from sales tax. That's not including business taxes, expenses, or fees and things like that these businesses are going to have to pay into. That's just straight money that we are giving to Illinois. And as a proud Wisconsinite, you and I both know how much we all love Illinois and love giving our money and things to Illinois.
Down with the noise.
Yeah, they're obviously not spending it on their football stadium because that thing's still,
Oh, God.
I don't know last time you were at Soldier Field, but it's still not great.
Well, just more that there's now everything's up in the air. We're not sure if they're going back to Arlington Heights now. That's back on the table, and so I just don't know. But I keep telling people if they go to Arlington Heights, they got to get rid of that big median on Palatine Road. Because if one of those cars dies there, you're going to have a lot of angry football fans stuck in traffic. Yep. So I hope that they have a solution for that. So, but tell us about education while we have time.
So one of the main things for education, I don't want to say there's been an attack on education, but, kind of since the 80s, we've been rolling back the funding that we put into our public school system, and we've been taking a lot of money out of the public school system and putting it into private vouchers and things like that. I know these are all state issues, but they are still issues that matter a lot to me. But one of the main things for education, everybody always talks about, oh, we need to help get better funding in our schools. We need, better education for our kids. I also think that we need a much easier path for education for adults, because, as I said, when you asked me why I wanted to get into this, I didn't. I wanted to go back to school, get my nursing degree, and then become a CRNA, which is essentially, an anesthetist, because I like what I do. I love working with kids, and it's pharmacology. I think is very interesting. So that's what I really wanted to go back into. But when I was looking at the path as a paramedic to get to the nurse anesthetist level, it was going to take me like 6 to 8 years just to get into school for the CRNA school. Whereas all my friends growing up who all have accounting degrees, they could get there in about 2 years because they already have a 4-year degree. They have absolutely no idea what the medical system is or, how to work in it. And I have over 12 years experience in the medical field in the OR, ER, med flight, EMS. I've been at all different levels of it. And it would take me, almost a decade to get to a level that they could get to in 2 years, all because they have a piece of paper that says, hey, you're good at math. So I think that there needs to be a better way to do that. I think there needs to be lower education costs at the collegiate level, just to help out
Sounds
people, advance their future forward.
Excellent. Ben Steinhoff, Democratic candidate for the 5th Congressional District held by Scott Fitzgerald. Thanks so much for joining us this morning along with your wife, Vicki, and we look forward to having you back on after you win the primary, and we'll have you back on closer to the general election. But best of luck, and more Patrick O'Donnell's next here on This Week in Waukesha. Don't go away.
Thank you.
Is waiting for the sunrise. Every little rosebud.
You're listening to This Week in Waukesha with your host, Don Brown. Coming to you live and local from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown. I got the mighty Max Martinson on the board. And my second guest, Patrick O'Donnell, author, podcast host, and retired Milwaukee police officer and fellow Irishman. Patrick, Cade Mila Falcha, glad you're here.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet. And Patrick mentioned that I guess he is a regular listener to this show because he listened to my guest last week, the Nunchucks, and it turns out you're a punk rock fan.
Hell yeah. It's so encouraging to see young kids embracing punk rock. I was so excited about that. And it's like, they didn't know a lot about the Sex Pistols. So
which surprised me. I thought that would have been an inspiration to them.
I was listening to the soundtrack on the way here.
Okay. Yeah?
That's a great soundtrack. Oh, my God.
Nunchucks, huh?
No.
Oh, the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, the Sex Pistols. Okay. Gary Oldman was actually singing.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
from the movie. Okay,
yeah, from the movie.
From Sid and Nancy.
Yeah, Joe Strummer's in there from The Clash.
Yeah.
It's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, and that was a really great movie. Obviously a very tragic movie, but great.
Oh, yeah.
Just a great depiction of what was going on back then.
Yeah, it's not a feel-good lifting up.
It certainly is not, yeah. So
it's not going to be a Hallmark movie anytime soon. No.
Right. So, but weren't you offended when they're partying on the boat and the police come? And one of them says, "I didn't know pigs could swim."
I thought it was funny.
With the British accent. Yeah. So,
I thought it was hilarious.
Terrific. So, but in your career, obviously very sobering, a lot of what you had witnessed. And how many years were you on the force in Milwaukee?
25 years.
25 years. Okay. And you served with our current, or you knew our current chief, Daniel Thompson, who was with Milwaukee.
I love Danny
MPD.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We could not pick a better chief of police. We really couldn't.
I couldn't agree more.
I would endorse him till the cows come home. He's a great guy. I've seen him in action. He's fair.
Yeah.
He's a good person, and he is exactly what you want in a police chief.
Yeah. Well said. So, but more about you. When did you start writing? Was it while you were serving, or was it after you retired?
I'm a big believer in the saying, fill the well before you're thirsty.
Okay.
Dig the well before you're thirsty.
Yes.
And, I had it in my head. I started at the police department a little bit later on in life. I was 30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is, I was running around with a bunch of 20-something-year-olds. So.
Yeah.
And what happened was I told myself, it's like, okay, 25 years, I'll be 55 years old. That's, I've reached my expiration, and it's like, it's a young man's game. It's not an old guy's game.
Sure.
And I spent my entirety on the street.
Okay.
I promoted to sergeant after about 7 years
Wow.
on the
Okay.
job. So
Yeah.
I retired as a sergeant, which was the best job on the department because I got to go to all the cool stuff. I had to go to like all the stuff.
Yeah.
So what happened was, after about 20 years, it starts hitting you and you're like, okay, now what? I mean, yeah, I'm old enough to retire from police work, but I don't want to retire.
Right.
So before I was a cop, I sold cars. I was living in Madison.
Yeah.
I was selling cars at John Lancaster.
Okay.
And I did that for 4 years. I bartended. I worked in
All right.
at IHOP downtown Madison. I was
Sure.
a manager there for a
Nice.
year
Yeah.
because I've
You had a
got,
similar career out as me. I was in the restaurant business. And
well, I have a degree in sociology, and that's what a 4-year degree in sociology will get you.
absolutely. Where's your degree from?
UW Whitewater.
Okay. Warhawks.
Yeah. Oh, love Whitewater. Oh
All
my
right.
gosh, I had a great time there.
Neat.
But what happened was, after I got on the job, people were asking me, "Hey, could you come with me and help me buy this car?"
Right.
Like family and friends.
Sure.
And then it kind of blossomed into a little side hustle.
Right.
That's when websites were first starting. You go to GoDaddy and you just
Sure.
kind of throw something up,
Right. Right.
and that's about the same time self-publishing was becoming a thing
Okay.
on Amazon. And it's like, And somebody told me, it's like, you should write a book
Right.
about how to buy a car to go
Yeah.
along with your business. And I'm like,
Nice.
all right. So I wrote it under a pen name. I was all Secret Squirrel because
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to get it approved through the chief because any off-duty
Right.
employment yet. And it's like, I don't want to go through all that now.
What was your pen name?
Joel Gray.
Joel Gray.
Yes.
All right.
So Joel Gray wrote the book, I Never Wore Plaid, Insider
Okay.
Secrets from a Former Car Salesperson.
Nice.
And I mean, it's just a horrible cover. It wasn't edited that great.
Right.
And I sold a bunch, not a lot,
Right.
but enough. But I learned the process, and I started going to writers' conferences.
Right.
And inevitably, people come up to you like at the happy hour or whatever. It's like, hey, you're that cop guy, right? And I'm like, I'm not wearing a T-shirt. I don't
Yeah.
have a sandwich board,
Right.
whatever. And people that know a lot more about the business than I do, they're like,
Sure.
you need to write a book about the police stuff for
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah.
So I did. I wrote 2 books called Cops and Writers, and those are more police procedurals for people who want to write like good crime fiction.
Okay. Oh wow. A how-to. For,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
I wrote 2 of those,
Sure.
and to get that rolling to advertise, I started a podcast. And at first it was, not many people
Right.
at all. And that's just exploded. I've been doing that for 3 years.
Okay.
And I have a Facebook group, Cops and Writers.
Right.
And it started with me, my editor, and a couple of friends. Now there's 7,500 people in there,
Wow.
literally from all over the globe.
Nice.
And I'm meeting people, it's great. I can't say enough good things about it.
That's terrific. And so, how would people find your podcast? Is it right, the Cops and Writers website?
Yeah, it's either through my website. It's on like 20 different platforms.
Okay.
All the big ones like Apple
Sure.
or Spotify or,
Sure.
those are the 2 biggest, but
Okay.
also like Amazon Music,
Yeah.
Audible,
Sure.
wherever you consume your podcasts.
Okay. So, but that's terrific. And then you also, and thank you for this, you have a series of books like this, the one I've got here, Field Training. And you co-wrote this with Michael Anderle, is that correct?
Yes, what happened was
Bruce City Blues, book 1.
Bruce City Blues. It takes place in Milwaukee. Big
Okay.
surprise.
Yeah.
And it's loosely based on my experiences in the city as a cop.
Sure.
So what happened was I interviewed Michael. He has one of the largest independent author publications.
Okay.
He has his own publishing house.
Wow.
And it's called LMBPN.
Mm.
And I was talking to him after I interviewed him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I want to get into crime fiction. And I'm like, okay. Before you know it, we struck a deal.
Wow.
And there was just, two dudes chatting. And
Okay.
he also started the Facebook group called 20 Books to 50K.
Okay.
If you're an independent author, that is a great, great resource for you.
Excellent.
We had, since 2017, we had the largest indie author conference
Okay.
in Vegas every year.
Wow.
So the first time I went was in 17. I knew one person. I saw her for 5 minutes and then didn't see her the rest of the conference. So
Wow.
I'm like, all right. And there was about 300-400 people.
Okay.
I was there last year, and I think they're up to about 2,000, 2,500.
Wow.
And I mean, it's just huge.
Sure.
And I always, well, the last 3 years, I would moderate a panel
Right.
for, like law enforcement for writers.
Sure.
And I would have guests from like all over the country.
Wow.
And it just exploded.
Sure.
So it's pretty cool.
That's neat. Wow. What an interesting career track you've taken.
Yeah, it goes
Oh,
all over
yeah.
the place.
So as we discussed this in between before we went back on air, and I'm throwing Patrick a little bit of a audible, but he had time to prepare. Was that yesterday there was landmark big news in the city of Waukesha about a verdict in a sexual assault case involving a store owner here in Waukesha, Stephanie Olson, a good friend of WAUK's Johnny Watermelon, by the way, and I had the pleasure of meeting her. And she was assaulted by a young man named Kendrew Wilson. And after the attack, she went immediately to the hospital, reported everything to the police. Waukesha police, credit to them and the supporting agencies around Waukesha County, apprehended this guy, I believe, within 24 hours. And from what I heard, was that the DA's office necessarily didn't have the appetite to really, with their busy caseload. And Stephanie was tenacious and was very successful in efforts to get this, we can now say convicted, but this young man prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And he was sentenced to, I believe, about 50 years. When he gets out, he'll be 75 years old. And the judge even said, I hope you die in prison, because it's just very disturbing. And you talk about stuff, that is maybe book-worthy. Sadly, tragically, is they found a list in this guy's backpack that had a list of 20 different types of women that he planned on assaulting. And one of them happened to be an older woman, and Stephanie, over 60, unfortunately, was that one victim. But because of her efforts, he's off the street, and these other 19 categories of women, and all in downtown Waukesha, by the way, have been spared this real, awful setting. But and Patrick Bauman, you might know, Dan Bauman, you might know from Waukesha, the police captain, had head of PR, he even commented, like, this stuff doesn't happen. Like, this was really disturbing.
Yeah, that's a rarity. A stranger sexual assault like that
Right.
is a rarity. And Waukesha is it's a very safe city for the size of the city.
Sure.
I was used to coming from Milwaukee, now I live in Waukesha, and I'm like, oh my God, this place is great.
Yeah.
It's like the police do a fantastic job.
Yep.
And, you want to keep it as safe as possible. But hats off to the victim in this. How incredibly brave
Hero.
is she?
Yeah.
It blows my mind, the tenacity, like you said, and the strength in her to, drive herself to the hospital and advocate for herself.
Yeah.
It would have been really easy just to kind of sit back and it's like, well, what happens, yada, yada.
She was very public about this and
Yes.
wanted, because she wants other women or other victims of assault like that to step forward. And I just learned yesterday through a mutual friend that Stephanie has agreed to be my guest on next week's show.
Oh, wow.
So we're really excited that Stephanie will be joining us to continue promoting her advocacy,
Yes.
her survival, and her heroics in bringing a very troubled individual to justice, a violent offender to justice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This suspect, in my opinion, that isn't enough time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just, that should be a life sentence.
Sure.
Because obviously he's predisposed to this. He's got this list, whatever, there ain't no fixing that. I don't think.
He just got bailed out for an assault on a bus or something like that. And,
I'm not surprised.
And he took the bus here to Waukesha and got off and found that Stephanie's store was open
And how many
in broad daylight.
And how many women has he assaulted before this that
we don't know
didn't
about?
come forward?
Yes.
And it's like, thank God this woman, Stephanie,
Yeah.
did what she did, because she's probably saved some other women a similar fate. This guy isn't going to stop.
Yeah. And as I said, I met her at the farmer's market, and I think in a couple other instances through Johnny Watermelon, and she's just a lovely human being.
Sure.
And so it's just, nobody deserves this, of course, but when you know the type of person that Stephanie is, you're just like, wow, I can't believe somebody would treat her like that.
It's shocking, and it shocks you down to your soul.
Right.
If you haven't been exposed to this, which most people haven't been exposed to, like violent crime.
Right.
It's kind of mind blowing. They're like, it's almost like an out of body experience. They're like, this can't be happening.
Sure.
And, for what I was involved in for 25 years, it's like, oh yeah, you become hyper vigilant.
Sure.
Too bad she didn't have a gun on her is the way I see it. It's like, this guy's a piece of human trash that needs to be taken out.
Right.
But that's just me.
Sure. So, and also through your books, you have a great, I guess, a medium for expressing maybe some of your outrage or indignation about what you've witnessed in your years in the force.
Absolutely. The Bruce City Blues series is a very much a police procedural. I explained why the cops do what they do with a story.
Sure.
And I just started a new series that should be out by the end of summer, where it's all fiction.
Sure.
So that one I'm having a blast with.
That's great. As a good aside, one of my previous writing guests, Sarah, the author who displays at the farmers market, she gave me a book called War and Roses that just got published, and it's about a woman who helped her ex-husband, who's a county sheriff, bring some people to justice. But more of the conversation continues as Patrick O'Donnell, and I see Joe Pieper wandering around outside the window, so I'm going to go fetch him. But we're really excited. It's a great Saturday here on This Week in Waukesha, WUK, 540 AM, 101.1 FM. And don't forget the Civic Media app. Hey, you're listening to This Week in Waukesha, and as an ode to my guest, retired Milwaukee police officer Patrick O'Donnell, we've got The Police with So Lonely, one of my favorites from that was from their first album.
Yeah.
And you admitted you're a punk rock fan, and they were kind of in that new wave genre that kind of was a follow-up to punk, and they had a real edge to them, and loved The Police. That was a great band.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, we love our local police, Waukesha and Milwaukee, and they'll have their hands full at the RNC coming up. Like all the different municipalities, their police forces will be participating, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, you have police departments from all over the country that are going to be coming here.
Yeah. So I was on the city council with my next guest, Joe Pieper, who's here in studio, 4th District Alderman, and we had voted to approve police support for the DNC pre-COVID.
Right.
And of course, COVID happened and some other issues, and they backed out because it all went virtual. But excited that there's another convention, regardless of party, that hopefully that'll be a real boon for our local economy, and we can minimize any unnecessary acts of violence or other things. And like I said, it's good that we have the full force of our metro area police departments in that effort.
Absolutely.
So, but like I said, it should be a great thing for this area, for our restaurants and for retail, hotels.
Oh, God.
All the things.
Yeah, because those delegates come from Illinois. There isn't enough hotels in this area for them, so they bus them up from Illinois. That's a lot of them come from there.
Really, for the RNC?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're going to be coming from Racine, Kenosha, Madison. There's a whole lot of busing going on.
Just for the day, you mean? And then going, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Because my hope was once the Milwaukee hotels filled up, was that the area, like Waukesha Hotel, other area hotels would be booking people, and then they would Uber in or figure out other ways.
I think a lot of people, that's what they started with Airbnb. It's like, hey, I can make some money.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be in town. So.
Sure.
But then you got to spend money going somewhere.
That's it. So, but our friend Patrick O'Donnell makes his money another way, leveraging all those years, 25 years in the police force, and his writing skills, and that Irish artist that's in him. I believe it's the both of us to
my inner Irishness. Yeah,
that's it. To channel a book series and also a podcast on Cops and Writers. We talked about this on the phone during the week, that there's an insatiable demand for police crime genre, whether it's fiction or real life or and so you've seemed to really capture or get a bite out of that.
Yeah, people are just fascinated by anything police. love them, hate them, somewhere in the middle. It always draws attention. Whenever
Sure.
you put yellow tape up, oh my God, it was
Yeah.
like moths to a flame.
Sure.
No matter what it was, and right away it's like, who's dead? Who's dead? Is somebody
Right.
dead? Is somebody dead?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah.
So you'll appreciate the story, Patrick. I just thought of it was, and Joe might remember this. Waukesha City Council, we approved body cams for our police.
Mhm.
But to do that, Chief Thompson invited all the alders to, they had like, Axiom had a kind of a little mini trade show across the street from the city hall. Did you go to that show? And it was great. I was there with Daniel Mannion, and we got to try the tasers. But there was a guy, he's retired Tosa police that consults for Waukesha. I forget, but a really funny guy. And it turns out we had a mutual friend who, a friend of mine is the deputy chief of one of the area police departments there. And this guy from Tosa, the consultant, sitting at home, and he's watching. There was like a murder or something that took place, and our friend's there, and he's had to put a tie on. And as he's looking down on this body, he gets a text from, and it says, "You knew you were going to be on TV. Why didn't you pick a better tie?" or something like that. It was just, oh my God. Like what is obviously a very serious moment. It involves murder and violence.
Right.
This guy comes in with a crack. So does some of your books have a little bit of that,
There's a lot of dark humor.
Okay.
Then the new series that I'm writing, it's even darker.
And what's that series called?
It's going to be called The Good Collar.
Okay.
And if you're a fan of Dexter, you're going to absolutely love it.
Okay.
It's a combination of Dexter with a dash of John Wick and Death Wish.
Wow. I remember Death Wish, Charles Bronson.
Yep. And it was remade. Bruce Willis remade
Really?
that. Yeah.
How long ago?
Oh, maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
Actually, that was a really good movie. He was the ER doc.
And was it called
Chicago.
Death Wish and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, and Bruce Willis was an ER doc?
Yes.
Okay.
That turned into a vigilante.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because Bronson was like a businessman,
Yeah.
a business owner.
Yeah, his
okay.
wife and daughter were brutally attacked. At
I
home.
remember that because I remember I saw that. Yeah,
Yes.
that was something.
But for my book, the police chaplain is the vigilante.
The police chaplain. Okay.
Yeah, in Dexter,
Wow.
he's the serologist that everybody likes.
Sure.
Well, in mine, the police chaplain, nobody would suspect him, and he can go
Right.
in and out of crime scenes, go
Sure.
to computers. Everybody loves him.
Wow. Scary.
Yep, very dark, but I'm having a ton of fun writing it.
It really sounds like it. So, hey, we have 3 minutes before we go into our second hour. Is there? What else do you want our listeners to know about Patrick O'Donnell and Cops and Writers that we haven't talked about?
Boy, when we're talking off air, I'm going to be on a crime documentary. I'm going to be narrating it.
Wow.
We filmed it back in November.
Okay.
And it's going to go live on Tubi TV
Sure.
September 11th.
Okay.
I don't think there is a title for it quite
Okay.
yet. But it's
You'll keep us posted.
it's about a Jeremy Simcoe homicide that happened in Ohio.
Wow. Okay.
It's a wife killing a husband,
Mm.
and
Okay.
it took the cops, I think,
Wow.
and the DA 5 years to make a case against her.
Wow.
And she's going on cruises.
Sure.
She got a new boyfriend right away after she just
Okay.
murdered her husband.
Wow. So I just had a thought and ideas. I don't know if you listened to one of our shows on Civic Media and WAK plays. It's called Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, and it's like it was 8 to 10 Monday through Friday, and I think you'd be a great guest on his show because I think what you're doing deserves a larger audience
Okay.
statewide, and Pete loves because he likes having different writers on and art and anything to do with. He's a big TV and movie guy, so
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be
we'll
great.
try to figure that out. And
Absolutely.
Then, but since you're here in Waukesha, you live in Waukesha, we definitely got to have you back on here.
Oh, I love it.
And we got to meet up for some coffee, talk more about your career, my writing aspirations, our common Irish heritage, and so much more.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll have a lot of fun. But I'm really glad we finally got to meet in person.
Yes.
And you're welcome to stick around, too, as Joe Pieper's on next, 4th District Alder Joe Pieper, wearing his Tulsa T-shirt, his alma mater. So I didn't know that about Joe. But there's a lot to talk about in the second hour, some big developments in city news, a new restaurant opening up in downtown, and so much more here on This Week in Waukesha. And don't forget, Stephanie Olson of Alterations Unlimited is my guest next week to talk about her recent experience and her heroics in bringing a violent offender to ultimate justice. So lots more to end. We're going to have the Farmers Market Report. Chris Moreau will be calling in with 2 reports, beginning of the second hour and halfway through. And now that the rain has stopped, could be a good day to get over there. And yeah, so we're excited. Again, catch the show on the Civic Media app if you don't have your radio. But it is 101.1 FM, 540 AM. The Shaw. This Week in Waukesha continues. Share it out. Help who you can. Talk about it. June 22nd, 2024. If it's 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, it's still time for This Week in Waukesha, hour number 2. I am your host, Don Brown. I am joined by the mighty Max Martinson on the board. And we are coming to you live and local from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown here in the WAUK studios, right around the corner from Theodore Yauman's Park, where we are proud to honor our suffragette heritage here in the Shaw. And my guest in hour 2 is a former colleague and alderman of the 4th District, chair of the Finance Committee still, correct?
Correct.
And good friend, Smoking Joe Pieper, Mr. Joseph Pieper. How are you, Joe?
I'm good, Don. Thank you.
Sounds great. And I saw you smiling when I was giving my ode to Theodore Yaumans. And do you remember how I learned about that? Or because I think we were on the same.
I don't, but let's.
So
I'd love to be reminded.
In my first 6 months in the council, the Mayor Sean Riley gave a proclamation on. It was like for the day of September 19th, 2019, in honor of the 100th anniversary of the ratification of, I believe it was the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote, and it in particularly it pointed out Theodore Yaumans, a reporter for the Waukesha Freeman, a graduate of Carroll, and the president of the women's suffrage movement in Wisconsin. And according to the proclamation, because of her efforts and the efforts of the suffrage movement, Wisconsin became the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And we have, one of the ways we honor that Waukesha is we have this small park kind of across from the rotunda, like a postage stamp sized park. But it's beautiful. It's got like a glass, like a greenhouse kind of treatment. And but it's something I think we could do a lot more to celebrate her story, Theodore Yaumans here in Waukesha. It's funny, people I know that grew up here knew some of her children, like her grandchildren, went to school with the family, so they know them. I don't know if they're still here, but it's certainly it was just one of those great things I learned from being on the council.
And even after 20 years of living in Waukesha, I didn't know all that history, so I learned something this morning.
So
That's
maybe
great.
you weren't at the meeting that day.
That might have been one I missed, one of the very few I missed.
Sure. So, but thankful to Sean Mayoret, who shares my kind of passion for history and especially local history. And so, Joe, I think a good place to start was I got, and I encourage everybody to do this, get your newsletter from the city of Waukesha. I jokingly say Rebecca Peterson's kind of like my copywriter for the show, and I've told her that. But you get so much great information there, and it's good to share it. And this actually, I think, was from a recent LinkedIn post where it's the developments from the latest city council meeting where you approved a reorganization of the assessor's office, which includes contracting out some work and changes to other positions.
Yes.
Overall, the reorganization will decrease personnel costs and overall budget of the assessor's office. So, and you voted to approve that yourself?
I did.
So terrific. And then you approved the purchase of a new fire ladder truck for 2028. The ladder truck will be ordered now to lock in prices, but the production time is 47 to 50 months. How about that? So the ladder truck will not be received until 2028.
2028. Yeah, we've done this on a variety of different, especially.
Can you talk closer to the mic, Joe? I'm sorry. Yeah, or just pull it up to you. Make yourself comfortable, sir.
Thank you.
We didn't get time to train Joe, so that's on me, not him.
So we've seen that with especially with fire trucks, just a tremendous amount of lead time, and it's been it's attributed to a lot of things, supply chain challenges coming out of COVID, and as we all know, a lot of communities like Waukesha got a lot of ARPA dollars from the feds, and there's been a lot of that money that's been spent towards fire trucks. So yeah, when you order a fire truck, you order it today and you get it 3 years from now.
Okay.
And it never ceases to amaze me. And I, when I talk to folks about just how much this stuff costs,
Yeah.
and I don't think anybody who really isn't following this closely has no idea that a ladder truck that you see in Waukesha probably every day costs over $2 million to the city. Now we get a good 20 years out of that piece of equipment.
Right.
So we get our money's worth.
Sure.
But the stuff that you see rumbling around town with a City of Waukesha logo on it is not cheap. And we take that, when we buy stuff like that, we take that into consideration, take it very seriously.
Yeah, and it was one of the things I took pride in too, is that you voted on these things are actually very important to us. You don't think about that when you think of national news, and you think like, what are the big things? Women's health or healthcare in general or immigration, all these, but at the local level, these are the really important things.
Yeah,
our public safety being one, and there's a price tag, or there's a cost for that, or an investment, as I like to say. So I appreciate it. And speaking of fire trucks, I learned that we have a new fire chief, Robert Goplin.
We do.
And it was approved by the Police and Fire Commission.
I think just yesterday, I believe.
Terrific. And so you haven't had a chance to meet the new fire chief
I
yet?
have not. I understand he's coming from, I think, over 25 years of service in Green Bay.
Wow.
I'm a proud alma mater of the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. So
that's right.
The new chief.
Tulsa's not your alma mater, my mistake, but you traveled, you visited there.
Just visited there. So Chief Goplin and I will have at least one thing in common as we get to know each other, some time spent in Green Bay. And we're excited to have him and look forward to getting him started, I think, first part of August.
Sure. And he'll be replacing outgoing fire chief Steve Howard, who 36 years in public service, and great. We're very fortunate to have him, and he continues serving. He'll be teaching at I think it's a WCTC.
Steve's going to be doing a lot. At his ceremony, I had a chance to ask him quickly how he was going to enjoy retirement, and I heard something this week where it's not retiring, it's refiring.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
I like that. I like that term, and I think that I know that really is going to fit Steve well, because he is going to stay very busy in refirement, as we like to call it.
Yeah, and I know he has one child that lives overseas, so I know he plans on taking some vacation time out there, and that'll be interesting. I believe it's in Asia, I think.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, he was. So we have the show on my podcast page. We were finally able to get that up. So be sure to check out my podcast page. That was a great interview with Steve Howard and with Assistant Fire Chief Joe Hoffman, who was acting fire chief during that time. And so I think we're in great hands.
We are.
Steve's left quite a legacy behind. So
and Joe did an outstanding job in the interim.
Sure did.
We're very, very fortunate to have strong management.
Yeah,
really across all our departments.
Yeah, and so that's what one thing I asked Joe about, and he's committed to doing it in the fire department, is we have the all those defibrillators in our parks now, and I thought it'd be a neat thing. I've been when Mike Razine has time, the first district alderman, my successor, as well as Eric Payne, who's now my alderman, is organizing something at Banting Park, like a day where people can come and learn how to use that in the event that something happens. Because it's great we've made that investment, but it you could argue that it's money wasted if people aren't trained on how to use that properly in the event that we do have a someone with a heart incident. So, and
if for those listening, if you haven't subscribed to the Pulse Point app on your phone, I strongly encourage you to do that, because that can give you an idea where AEDs are located as you travel around not only Waukesha but the country. So it's a great app to follow.
Sure. And that reminds me, we don't have any calls in yet from the farmers market, huh? Okay, so we'll see, but I'm sure they're busy. But another thing that happened at the council was that you celebrated the graduates of the most recent city leadership program, 12 graduates from departments across the city. And this program is designed to help develop skills needed for successful leadership at all levels and in all departments of the city. The employees participate in book discussions, interviews, a service project, and more over the months there in the program. And in my last full year in the council, I got to participate in one of them. I was invited along with, a couple elders to speak and answer questions, and I thought it was a really great program, and it sounds like it continues.
Yeah, it's continuing. It was something that was started by our previous city administrator, Kevin Lehner, and Tony Brown, our new city administrator, is continuing the program. And it's just one of the many things that we do as an organization, because the city is government, certainly, but it's also an employer. And we all know how hard it is to find good employees. We all know how hard it is to keep good employees. So even in government, we have to do things big and small to bring our people along, give them opportunities to grow. And the leadership this leadership program is a great example of that.
Sounds terrific. Now, when Joe and I served together on the council, we spent a day together. We kind of did a little tour of each other's districts, and couple things I remember about the 4th District is that there was an area that used to be a racetrack of one form or another.
There's two alleys in the Westtown neighborhood off of Mapleton Court that the story goes it used to be a small little horse track.
Okay.
So that I'm fairly sure that's accurate, but there could be a little bit of Waukesha legend in that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I was asking. John Shane Connect was my guest earlier, and
John would know.
Yeah,
he would know.
So, but he said he's going to look it up because he wasn't quite familiar with that.
So that Westtown neighborhood is a beautiful neighborhood, and it's one of the older ones in the city. And that very unique stone house that's at the corner of Grandview and Summit,
I love that,
was actually the sales office for that subdivision that developed after World War II.
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of returning GIs that bought a lot and built a house in that subdivision in the late 40s.
Okay. That's really interesting history. And then there was also I don't know if you call it a trailer park or a mobile home community. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's right there in the corner of like Summit and Summit and Moreland.
Kind of tucked up behind St. William Church. Yep.
So, and I thought that was really interesting because people don't really know about that.
No, it's a great little community. A lot of I've talked to that. That's an area that kind of comes in and out of the district because based on redistricting and things. So I've had the opportunity to represent those folks a couple of different times.
Okay.
It's in Corey Payne's district now with the most recent redistricting.
Sure.
But it's a great little community. There's people that have lived up there a very long time, and it's a great little pocket of Waukesha.
Yeah, sure. And it's kind of one of the unknown, I guess, aspects of our city.
Yep.
So terrific. And then how are we doing on time there, Max? Okay. So real quick, we'll talk about that there was a proposed mobile food vendor ordinance, and it was the 3rd reading, so no vote was taken. What's going on with that?
It's an opportunity to really formalize how food trucks operate in the city. Their food trucks just have taken off in popularity, and we certainly welcome that. But at the same time, we just want to make sure that there's some guidelines in place, especially if you're using or parking on a city street.
Okay.
So this really doesn't impact if you want to have a food truck at your business, something like that. This really doesn't touch that. This is more of just making sure that there's some guidelines in place for food trucks that want to use city parking lots or use city streets, things like that.
That sounds great. So the conversation continues with 4th District Alderman Joe Pieper, and Patrick O'Donnell from the first hour is still here. He may have a few questions for Joe. And so much more city news to cover here, and city government news with Joe here in This Week in Waukesha. And if you're listening on the radio, don't forget to download the Civic Media app, and we'll even take your calls from the Civic Media app. It's that little phone icon there. And if you have any questions for Joe. So we'll see you in a minute. Hey, you're listening to This Week in Waukesha, and I very rarely play Chuck D. In fact, it's my first time playing him, but it's rather fitting. It's a tribute to Willie Mays, one of the great American icons who passed away this week, number 24, and probably one of my favorite ball players of all time, even though he didn't play when I was, living, or if he did, it was in the twilight of his career, but that catch he made in center field at the Polo Grounds. If anyone's familiar with the Polo Grounds, it was a football stadium where the New York football Giants used to play. And so center field went forever. So it wasn't just a typical catch at the warning track. It was like this guy ran a country mile to catch that ball. Not only did he catch it, but he stops. And again, your momentum's going that one way, but he manages to stop on a dime and then throw this like perfect throw back to the so in that film always cuts to like two guys in the stand, one guy in the stands who's like hitting his hand on that, like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw. That's really what happened. That was just amazing. And that was probably the most iconic or memorable moment, or like probably the greatest moment in like 20th century baseball history. If you could think of one, like what does most people think of? Like some people say, well, Ruth pointing outfield, but that wasn't on TV. There was Kirk Gibson's home run in game 1 of the 88 World Series where he's on like half a leg, and probably had a couple gin and tonics in him before he went out, coming out of the clubhouse in relief, and they call it a clubhouse for a reason. But yeah, I mean, just obviously many great moments, but that's the one that always sticks out in my memory the most. And I really thought Major League Baseball did a great thing, or for lack of a better word, when they had a major league game got moved. It was Giants and Cardinals at the stadium in Birmingham where the Birmingham Barons played and where the old Negro League played. And they had a really neat ceremony at the beginning. It was kind of a musical and a dance thing. And because Mays, like many, started out in the Negro Leagues. And so it was a really nice ode to Negro League Baseball, which has now been integrated with Major League Baseball statistically. And so I thought, just one of the greats in baseball. And
93.
93 he lived too, 93 long years.
Very full life.
And some would argue he was maybe the greatest all-around player. Had like over 500 home runs, had a ton of stolen bases, like 12 gold gloves for his play in the outfield, yeah. Won a World Series in 1954 with the Giants when they were in New York before they went to San Francisco. And so, and just one of these great, no matter what team you rooted for, he was someone that you celebrated. He was great for the game. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah. And then, we also lost Donald Sutherland recently, another great actor. So many, really a fantastic career, movies, television, so many other, like even, I think he was a voice in many animated films, but,
the MASH movie comes to mind.
Yeah, he was the original.
Yeah,
he was Hawkeye Pierce. Yeah. Yep.
That's right. He was.
We're the pros from Dover. That used to be one of my favorite lines.
Yeah. Kelly's Heroes.
He was great. Yeah.
Animal House.
Yep.
Yeah.
Invasion of the
That's
Body.
right. Yeah.
I mean, we could go on all morning. naming
Ordinary People.
Oh God.
He probably should have gotten Best Supporting Actor for that.
That's right.
He was unreal, and Mary Tyler Moore was fantastic in that too. Yep. So just quite a career and a great North American, a native of Canada. So we celebrate our Canadian brothers and sisters. So yeah, and then we also we're looking forward to another great 4th of July celebrations to start with the fireworks on July 3rd at the what's the name of that park across
at
from
Lowell
Waukesha?
Park.
Lowell Park. I drove by there last night. Like, how bad am I? But I heard there's going to be more. Like Ray's Grain had a truck there that just was overwhelmed, and so they're going to have more like food and beverage trucks.
Yeah, it was. So the city moved.
And that's a good problem.
It was a great problem. And last year, I mean, we had just an absolute phenomenal turnout for fireworks. And Waukesha is kind of a fireworks town. And for many years, it was at the airport, as we all know. And the challenge with the airport is
it's a tough in and out.
It's tough in and out. And then just, from an airport operations standpoint, fireworks and the remnants of fireworks don't play well with jet engines and airplanes. So they just said, you know what?
I never thought of that. Yeah,
weird.
Explosion.
Well,
wow, this is different.
The
buildings are blowing up.
The stuff that's left over, can get pulled into jet engines. And with the increased amount of traffic at the Waukesha Airport, which is also a good thing, the airport finally came to the city and said, hey, we think you guys
not a good idea.
We just need to move this. And Lowell Park has worked out really well. Yeah. But last year, the Park Rec Department learned a lot last year, and we're, from my understanding, going to have a lot more stuff, a lot more
continuous
restrooms,
improvement,
a lot more,
that's
more
fine.
beverage areas this year. So,
because what was neat is that there's so many different points of entry and exit, which is great for traffic. We were at a graduation party for one of my son's best friends from football and baseball teammate, and that was the same house that we watched the fireworks at last year. It was when you go further up Madison, it was a left-hand turn, and so they're in kind of an elevated spot there where you could see the fireworks perfectly from their backyard. And there were many homes like that you could just you could go to your friend's house and have all those comforts that you talked about, restroom, fun beverages and eats. And so I just thought it's just a great community approach to a fireworks celebration.
Yeah, and it's a great time of year, and the vendor that does it always does a great job. I mean, people rave about our fireworks.
Sure, yeah. Now, are those launched right from the park or like from the football field of Waukesha North?
So Don, you're testing me a little bit.
Yeah.
I believe they're launched kind of from the southwest side of the park, kind of the southwest corner of the park.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that, but
No,
that was my understanding.
Yeah. So, but it's a great, and I think it was just a great move too. And it spread the celebration out across a couple days. So, because I know there's people who like to do their own fireworks, and so they have that night on the 4th to do that.
They do. And if you do your own fireworks, all we ask is just be safe and respect your neighbors, and try to cut them off at a reasonable hour. So my phone doesn't ring, and the police department's phone doesn't ring.
Yeah.
Don't lose any fingers.
Don't lose any fingers.
Don't lose fingers.
I remember during COVID, there was, a lot of rogue, fireworks displays, and it attracted all sorts of craziness, including we had ding dong ditch vandals that victimized it. And I guess it's, poetic justice, because that was one of my guilty pleasures as a troubled tween. So I got but the dog went crazy.
Karma got you.
Oh yeah. So, my son and his friends were out chasing the kids. I think they knew them, but yeah, it made for a lot of unnecessary craziness. So, but we are looking forward to so much more this coming 4th of July weekend. So much, so much to really look. Just a great summer to look forward to here in the Shaw.
Yep, 4th of July parade coming up. So that'll be good. I hope everybody turns out for that.
Yep. So yeah, really looking forward to. It's awesome. WAUK. Last year we marched in the parade, but this year we're going to be at the fireworks providing music while the parade goes on. So really, that's a great stroke by Chris Moreau, our station manager, the wealth of radio experience. I think that's a great way for us to represent the brand, but also really support the community. So I'm excited about that. And so we got about a minute. Is that right, Max? Yep, about a minute. So yeah, the conversation continues with Joe Pieper, 4th District Alderman. We're grateful for Patrick O'Donnell sticking around, my second guest, and we're going to give him a chance to ask Joe a couple questions in the next half hour here. And hopefully we'll get a call from the farmers market, but if not to worry. My feeling is that they are busy, because the farmers market's usually busy, especially in a day like today where it might be a little bit cooler.
It's not raining.
It's not raining. Yeah, the rain has stopped. So, and there's just some great buys, and good time to do kind of your 4th of July planning. The shelf life on a lot of that produce is almost forever. Like I still have mushrooms from like 3 weeks. That's still a great shelf life, and they're fun to cook with. So I hope to make it out there today if time allows. So, but we're going to talk more with Joe about what his plans are for the summer, a little bit more about his background, and maybe some plans for the city's future as This Week in Waukesha continues. And a message from another former colleague of ours, Terry Themey, who just texted in. So stick around. WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM, This Week in Waukesha. Hey, you're listening to This Week in Waukesha on WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM. And again, for Patrick O'Donnell, my first hour guest, who's a punk rock fan, that's the jam within the city. The new wave movement came out, it's like a son of the punk rock movement, kind of, or an affiliate. And I like that song because it's kind of how I feel about Waukesha. In this city, there's so many things I want to say to all of you. And I'm really grateful to have such great guests that add so much color and character to the community. And that includes Alderman Joe Pieper of the 4th District, and Patrick O'Donnell of Cops and Writers, and also a long-time dedicated Milwaukee police officer, now retired. And speaking of retired police officers, Joe and I got a nice text here from our mutual friend, former alder and current county supervisor, Terry Themey, the Fighting Saint. And Terry says, hey, two of my favorite guys. Thanks for that, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
And he says, if you have time, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the city attorney position. Should it be appointed or should it be elected? Currently, it's an elected position.
It is.
Joe Pieper. I'm like John McLaughlin. Joe Pieper.
Right?
Issue number one.
There was a referral made by Alderperson Beth Moulton to take a look at the role and see if it should remain elected or if it should be appointed. And I am in the process of developing my opinion on that. So Terry, I don't have any breaking news for you as far as what my final opinion on that, because I'm still in the process of just kind of pulling my thoughts together. But there's as I think about it, there's good points on both sides of the issue.
Yeah.
To be in a city attorney, you need to be an attorney. And there are only so many attorneys that live in the city of Waukesha, and there are only so many attorneys that might be inclined to run for city attorney.
Okay.
So if you keep it elected, what's the available pool of applicants for the role.
Sure.
To be an alderman, you've got to be 18 and not a felon. So
Yeah.
there's a pretty
Phew.
wide open
Yeah.
pool. You don't need any professional certifications to do this job. That's probably a very good thing. But there is to be a city attorney. And then
Sure.
the other side of the coin, as I think about this, is there's a level of independence with the city attorney's office that comes from being elected.
Sure.
So if you move that to being appointed, the question for me, and again, still trying to figure this out, and nothing's been decided, is kind of where does that position ultimately report to or
Sure.
report up to? Is
Sure.
it the city council? Is it the city administrator? Is it a combination? Is it the mayor? I know that the O&L committee has heard this, I think, at least once.
Right.
So there's some thought that's going into it. But like I said, Terry, I don't have any definitive opinion on it yet because I'm still pulling my thoughts together on it.
And I apologize for my ignorance, because does the city attorney currently report to the council or to the city administrator or the mayor or both?
City attorney reports to the same bosses that I have. I mean,
Okay.
It's an elected role.
The people.
And they report to the people.
Sure. So, hey, and speaking of attorneys, my resident counsel here in the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown, James Santel, he's graced my guests and myself with cannolis from Glorioso's all the way on Brady Street. And James is on next. His show, as you know, was called Morning Cannolis, now known as Amicus, a law review, but I get to call it Atticus because Jim embodies the spirit of Atticus Finch. So thank you again, Jim, for all that you do. And also
It's a very, very good book.
Yes.
If you haven't made your kids read To Kill a Mockingbird,
no doubt.
Have them read it.
When I was living in Chicagoland, I should say, Mayor Richard M. Daley, the young old Mayor Daley, he called that the book. He ought to always pick out a book for the public school kids to read. And one year he made To Kill a Mockingbird. That was his favorite book. And so I always appreciated that he made that public, and fantastic story. And then another member of my circle, Mary Jane Sanchez, has also checked in, and she was played a very active role in arranging for Stephanie Olson to be my guest next week, and we're really looking forward to having her on and discussing her advocacy and her heroics as a survivor of a brutal assault, and her continuing advocacy for women and any survivors of assault. And so really looking forward to that show next week. And then Joe's colleague, Alicia Halbenslaven, will also be checking in next week too. So it's always good to catch up with her. And you'll see her at the farmer's market with her cat in a cradle, or a nice, I forget what you could, stroller, if you will. So I think that's fantastic. She's a real character. Really glad to have her on. And hey, let's give Daniel. Daniel O'Donnell, do you have a question for Joe Pieper? And if I call you Patrick O'Donnell, but if I call you Daniel O'Connell, I'm thinking of the great Irish liberator, of course. So he'll accept my who.
Hey, I've been called worse.
He achieved Catholic emancipation in Ireland in
I've been called a lot
1829.
worse.
So, but any questions for Joe, Pat?
What kind of rings to me is crime prevention. I come from a police background, and this is a very safe neighborhood. It's a safe city. I feel safe here, and I think that's and we want to keep it that way. And Danny Thompson is the chief. We couldn't have a better. I don't think. I absolutely love him.
Agree.
Wholeheartedly.
If you ever talk to him, if you see him soon or talk to him, ask him about getting poisoned by octopus on Christmas Eve.
That sounds like a Dan Thompson story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
That poor guy. I won't go into the story, but I felt so bad for him. But
was it on duty or a holiday celebration?
No,
I do
it
like octopus.
It was on duty. It's an Italian delicacy.
Okay.
And one of the coppers, we're doing roll call at midnight, and it's Christmas Eve, and he brings in this, like octopus.
See, I would eat that.
And I'm like, you could
it.
have that. No, thank you. And he's egging Danny on. I was like, come on. You got to eat it. And he's like, yeah. So 5 minutes later, he's in the bathroom and he's turning 10 shades of green. And I'm like, oh, you poor guy. So that's the poisoning of our police chief. But on a serious note, England has taken, great strides in CCTV. It's everywhere. Do we have a lot of that, like in the downtown area? There's a police presence. You see like beatmen walking around, which is great. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But is there a lot of video?
So the city, the answer is certainly not to the extent that you'd see in England or overseas.
Right.
But there are cameras. The system, it used to be called OptiCop. That's how I know it. I think it's got a newer name. And these are a series of cameras that are downtown and in some of our parks that do keep an eye on things. And I've talked to folks that are very, very supportive of it. I've talked to other folks that just don't like it. I mean, there's certainly a group of folks that just don't like the fact that they're being surveilled. And I try to keep it light, and I remind them that if you go anywhere in a given day, you're probably on camera.
Oh, absolutely.
Hundreds of times, whether you go to Quick Trip or whether you go anywhere, even probably into your office, you're going to be on camera. And if you're not doing anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about.
Right.
But it is a very good system, and it does help the dispatch center keep an eye on certain events downtown. It has solved crime. I know of different stories, especially downtown. And then the other system that the city has implemented that's getting a little bit of attention nationally is the flock cameras. And the flock cameras are those very small little black cameras that you may see around town. And all they're doing is they're recording license plates as cars drive by. And this system is a nationwide system that's being used by police departments to track down bad guys. And it can be anything from a stolen car. It can be a wanted subject. It could be all the way down to maybe somebody, if you think of a silver alert. And it's phenomenal technology. It is helping us keep Waukesha safe. I'm a big supporter of it. And it's something that, we have the system in place. We're not really looking to expand it at this point, but it's definitely helping.
Terrific.
And I think a lot of folks think that, the data is stored forever. It's not. And if you have specific questions on that system, I encourage you to call your alderman. That's what I love. That's the part of this job where I love to tell people that, it's our job to make sure that we answer your questions. And I had a business owner in town who had some pretty specific questions about it. I set up a tour for him at the PD with one of our sergeants. He walked through the whole system, got educated, and came out with a lot of maybe preconceived notions, no longer preconceived. So it was a great meeting. So again, if you have questions on this kind of stuff, call your alderman, email your alderman. I mean, that's the big part of our job.
I can't thank you enough for saying that, Joe, because that's something I always tried to emphasize, that, our democratic government, small d, democracy is not a spectator sport. And call your alders for any issues you have. And if someone called with a complaint, no matter how upset they were, I always saw it as an opportunity. I'd go to their house, and it was usually something involving their property or a tree or the sidewalk or something. But then I would refer them to the right person in our city government. It'd be an email with all three participants. And no matter who it was across departments, you always got an educated response. And even if it wasn't the response that the constituent wanted, they were grateful for the service and for the knowledge that was being shared. And then and it led to greater engagement. It's just like the more connected we can become, the better our government will be, the more active we are. And so that's why it's important for, to give public comment, or you can send an email in now, right, for public comment, I believe.
You can. Yep.
So, but, because, I wanted to throw something at you different, Joe, and I promise there'd be no cheap shots, and there's not. But one of the things I'm regretting about my time in the council was when I was on HR committee, and I voted it in in council, was that we had passed a law, or what do you want to call it, that forbade our departments from hiring relatives, family members of current staff. And even when I was on HR committee, in the back of my mind, I was thinking that we are all here today. The world still exists because of the most blatant form of nepotism that happened at the highest levels of government. And had it not been for those two individuals, those two brothers during the Cuban Missile Crisis, none of us would be here.
Right.
But then I look at other professions, like, in baseball, there'd be no Barry Bonds, and that's I'm not a big Barry Bonds fan, but you think Ken Griffey Jr., there'd be none of these people if baseball had those same rules. And then more germane to our city, children of police officers that that are part of that experience. They know the good with the bad, and they may be better suited for careers in that. And I thought of this. I was talking to one of my friends in one of the departments, and she was saying that it's been tough for them to hire because there are children of staff that they want to go into this. They want to follow in their parents' footsteps. And now we've kind of, we've put this and we're kind of, especially now that there's such a demand for talent and for labor. I made give a public comment asking someone to introduce something to revisit that provision. And because there's ways, with HR and everything, there's ways to, obviously screen those people. If they're not performing, they're gone in 6 months or sooner. But chances are when you have quality people working for a city, you have quality children that they've earned their degree or they're doing positive things. They have a good resume. They compete with anybody else. And so, and again, I threw this at you, so it's not some of your, but yeah, tell me your thoughts, Joe. If
I don't have the policy in front of me, and I never.
Right.
It's hard for me to remember the timing of all of this, but I know that the nepotism policy has been reviewed, and I believe even in the last few years, Don. So to your point, what you acted on at HR committee, I believe is different than what's in place today.
So it's been revised since because we passed it too in council.
Yep. So
okay.
I don't have the policy in front of me, and a lot of times dates and things run together. But from what I recall, there's been some changes to that policy to bring in a lot of your thoughts. Because
Terrific.
Yeah, it is hard to find workers. It's especially hard to find police and firefighters.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately it's a profession that we're seeing less interest in, which is just terrible because it's such an honorable profession, both being a cop and a firefighter.
Yeah.
We are thankfully, and I do knock on a little bit of wood here. We've been very, very, very lucky that our processes are still pretty full. We are a fire department and a police department that people want to work at. And as I take that very seriously as a member of the council, to make sure that we maintain that. Because you want good cops and firefighters to work in your city, and you want them to want to work in your city. And we spend an awful lot of our boss's money on police and fire, but Waukesha, it's a public safety town, and we take that very seriously.
That's great. The conversation continues with Alderman Joe Pieper in the 4th District and Patrick O'Donnell, and we will honor a fallen member of the Waukesha police staff who died this year many years ago as This Week in Waukesha continues on WAUK 540 AM 101.1 FM. And don't forget the Civic Media app.
Trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
It certainly is a wonderful world here on This Week in Waukesha and in our beloved city, Guitar Town, USA, the Spring City.
Eyes of blue.
And of course, who doesn't love Louis Armstrong? Satch. And thanks to Mary Jane Sanchez here in the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown, we are learning, or we should announce that the Rivers End Gallery is closing after 19 years in business, located at 380 West Main Street in Waukesha. Come in for all the specials. And then I also wanted to mention we have a new restaurant opening in Waukesha where Sakura was located. If you've ever been to a game at Arrowhead, on the way there, you pass this place. And I'm trying to find the name again. Is it Sweet Sensations? Sweet Dreams. And it's it's a good old American hot dog and burger joint. And so that'll be a nice, I see them cleaning up at Friday Night Live. Now that I think about that, they're looking to open hopefully sometime this summer. I've heard different things, either late July or early August. So we're wishing them well and lots of success. And I forgot to mention on last week's show. In fact, I think I saved this because Patrick O'Donnell is here, not Daniel O'Connell, but a great liberator in his own right as a retired policeman. That this month we honor and remember fallen detective Schmidling, who lost his life in the line of duty on June 11th, 1961. He served the Waukesha Police Department for 6 years and was in the United States Navy. And last fall, when the city installed the Public Safety Memorial outside of City Hall to permanently honor and remember all our fallen police and firefighters. And you can still purchase a personalized brick for that memorial, too. And you can get more information on that from the city website. But definitely worth checking out. And to me, and I think Joe would agree, and I think Patrick would agree, that it's nice to see in that memorial there's very few first responders that lost their lives in the duty for the city. I believe there's like 2 firemen or 3, and 2 were in the same accident. And then I think Detective Schmidling might be the only police officer, I think, that lost his life in the line of duty. There might be one more, but
Yeah, there was a detective in the 90s that also unfortunately lost his life in the line of duty. So yeah,
okay.
as a city, you want a lot of room on a memorial like that.
Yeah.
And, but it was something that folks at the police department and the fire department brought forward to the council when we were finishing up City Hall and said this is something that we want to do to honor the memory of those that made the ultimate sacrifice for our city, and this would be a great place to put it. And the council agreed completely, and it turned out great. It's a beautiful memorial right there in front of City Hall.
Terrific. So Joe, here in this last segment, if you will, and Terry Themey had he said you did good, Joe, and he says that it was that Captain Lutz with the Oswalds.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Terry. Captain Lutz. Yes.
Okay. So thanks for that, Terry. And what do you want people to know about the city of Waukesha, the city council, that we haven't discussed yet?
That we're very approachable. And I said this when we were talking earlier. In this job, you get calls on all different things. And I never say they're big and small, because for someone to come to the point to call their alderman, it's a big thing for them. And I encourage folks to reach out, get in touch with us, ask us questions about what's going on in the city, ask our opinion on stuff that's going on in the city. The other thing that I always encourage folks to do is just talk to your neighbors. And I think that we're all busy. I mean, you have kids, you've got a job, you're running around. I think that we need to spend a little bit more time and invest a little bit more time in talking to our neighbors and getting to know our neighbors. There are challenges that I get phone calls for that I think could probably be worked out, if neighbors would just simply, reach across the fence and kind of talk things out. When I get those calls, you handle them the same way. You don't take anything, you don't treat it any different. But I've just noticed in my time in the job that people just get so darn busy that you just don't take the time to really know your neighbors. So that would be one thing that I would love to leave with folks is if there's somebody across the street that you've never met, just walk over and introduce yourself.
Yes.
And just give them your number and your name and number, because you just never know. I mean, you may need their help someday to watch your house or let a dog out or something like that. And
right.
there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. And a more connected community can only make us stronger.
Absolutely.
So, and I remember it's something Joe had talked about in the council too, was that when we talk about this national polarization in our political culture currently, and here at the local level, I remember Joe saying that the neighbors don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, as long as their garbage is getting picked up properly, as long as the police are doing their job effectively. And we have good schools and we have good opportunities for local economic development.
Yep.
Jobs and all the good things. And I found in my time that I was forming alliances with other alders that maybe nationally we had very opposing views. And so that was at the end of the day, there's so much more that unites us.
Yeah, we have a very good group of 15 people that really want to see the city move forward, the city succeed.
Sure.
We get along. We disagree. Yes.
Yeah. Who do you like the least? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer. That we just have some fun.
I enjoy working with every one of my 14 colleagues.
Sounds great. Sounds terrific. So 2 minutes left. Any big plans for the summer or?
My wife and I are checking 2 more states off. So Jen and I travel right around our anniversary, which is the end of June.
Nice.
And
happy anniversary.
Thank you. So we're heading off to the East Coast to check off Rhode Island and Connecticut.
Nice.
And once we're done with those 2, I believe we only have 3 states to go.
Okay.
And so Jen says we have to wait a little bit to go to Alaska.
There you go.
But we're gonna check off a couple more states.
So when you go to Rhode Island and you get to Providence, and of course you got to see Brown University, but check out Federal Hill, some fantastic Italian food.
My wife is extremely prepared.
All
so
right.
we've got a PowerPoint presentation ready to go. And I can only
just like in that movie Vacation when Clark Griswold does the whole I love it.
I can only imagine that that's probably on the PowerPoint.
That's terrific. So, and any plans or aspirations for the council in terms of any like kind of short-term goals or just real quick.
The city council, we just finished up revising the strategic plan, which was a great exercise because we got a lot of input from the public. There was a number of sessions, I believe 3 working sessions with the council where we were in a little bit more of an informal committee of the whole session where you could just kind of the formalities break down a little bit
Sure.
so you can have good conversations. So we're very excited about that. We're seeing a number of really nice development projects continuing to roll into the city, which we're excited about. There's one very large project out on Highway 18 towards Sendix on the west side of town.
Nice.
There's going to be some nice projects coming downtown Waukesha, which is going to be great. So there's a lot of interest in Waukesha by developers and people that want to invest here. We have a number of companies that continue to grow. So it's great. And Don, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. 4th District Alderman Joe Pieper, Cops and Writers guru Patrick O'Donnell, not Daniel O'Connell. And don't forget my guest next week is Stephanie Olson. Have a great Saturday. Remember, safety is everyone's responsibility. And see ya!
I think to myself,